About 2 years ago, a study done by a primatologist at Florida State University, Larry Kleck, found that an average of 2 million defensive gun uses occur about every year. These 2 million cases were everyday citizens whose property and lives were basically saved thanks to their ownership of a personal gun. You could also kind of look at this as without the personal gun, instead of 2 million safe uses, we would have 2 million more acts of theft, rape, and murder and such not in the USA. Hunting has allowed for continuous conservation and control of wildlife saved by professional hunter Stephen L. Ash. Now, of course, you're wondering what this has to do with murder and rape. The question is they both basically are connected through the Second Amendment, which is the citizens' right in America to bear personal arms. Now, my major claim is that the Second Amendment protects individuals and the environment from loss and harm. Now, I'm going to answer these with 2 secondary points. The first one is that gun ownership is necessary for self-defense, and wildlife preservation is basically needed through hunting. Hunting helps wildlife preservation. So my first secondary claim dictates that in order to have true self-defense, a private firearm is needed. Time and again, the Second Amendment has allowed citizens to protect themselves with the use of their personal gun. To feel secure and safe is a basic tenet of humanity. Unfortunately, one that is not always easy to obtain in this age when crime seems to always be constantly on the rise. The Second Amendment gives Americans the right and ability to defend themselves. If a burglar were to break into a person's house, such as what happened in my house, the homeowner could easily scare them away with the sight of cocking the tap of their gun. Even if the person was actually not breaking in to steal but to harm them, the gun could still serve its purpose. Though not necessarily they don't have to kill the person, just the sight of it is to be enough to scare away the assaulter. A survey administered to criminals serving time in prisons across the country by the U.S. Department of Justice found that about 74% of burglars avoided dwellings for fear of being shot, and 40% of those surveyed did not commit a specific crime for fear that the victim they were going to rob was probably armed. This result helped to point out that even though personal gun ownership sometimes can lead to violence, it actually in reality helps deter criminals from committing household crimes. Some Americans, however, claim that guns in the home actually can add to the argument-related crimes of such as passion and murder. You get angry at your wife and decide to shoot her because you have a tough day at work and you just go crazy. However, according to the U.S. Senate Subcommittee on Juvenile Delinquency, a study done by FBI and the NYPD, they have found that 70% of murders committed in the home are done by people with histories of violent crime, not just the usual spur-of-the-moment cases. Guns are not a weapon, but more or less something, an instrument of power that need to be respected and carefully and safely used to ensure that they help aid in self-defense and not in accidental murders. My second claim is that hunting is essential for wildlife management. Firearms encourage and facilitate the heritage and tradition of the sport of hunting. Now, Americans will use the firearms to harvest animals for conservation, wildlife management, and food. Some people disdain hunting and find it barbaric and not necessarily in step with modern times. However, even though hunting does kill animals, it serves a much greater purpose than this. Hunting actually allows for the management of the quality and quantity of given species in any habitat. According to professional hunter Stephen L. Ash, hunting makes it possible for animals to live in a sustained manner in the land in which they live for much longer than they would have if wildlife numbers had been allowed to multiply and exceed the carrying capacity or basically the capacity for the number of animals that can live in that certain space of land. Hunting is a conservation effort, and the tools allow for the effective management of wide conservation of wildlife, not only for the act itself, but a great deal of actual funding for hunting actually helps to encourage wildlife management. So every time a person buys a gun or ammo, the money itself is being used to help preserve and conserve wildlife. In conclusion, the Second Amendment has and continues to play a major role in American history and society. It ensures the safety of average everyday citizens, working people, just all around who might come into situations that are dangerous or threatened. It allows for the wildlife of America to be conserved, so generations starting today and going on to the future can help aid in the preservation and conservation of natural and living resources. The Second Amendment has continued to aid in the protection of American lands, and with new supporters for the Second Amendment sprouting up all the time, it is assured this amendment will continue to grow in popularity and power and will someday be accepted probably much more majorly than it is now.